As you can tell from this video, I'm going to be discussing spillway releases, and specifically what I'm going to be talking about is what happens in the reservoir when the spillway is open. Now, there is a perception out there that when we open the spillway gates that we're dumping a bunch of stored water. So what it is, I made an animation about that perception. So here we have the water up against the face of the spillway gate. And the perception is that when we open that, then all of that water that we had stored is then dumped. However, we want to test out whether or not that is actually true. And I found that there's an analogy that can help people to understand and remember that we're not really dumping a bunch of stored water when we open up the spillway gates. And this is probably going to be the simplest personal finance lesson that you've ever been subjected to, but it can be helpful to understand this concept. So let's say that you have an account and you start with $1,000 in that account, but you have to withdraw $500. Well, if we go with that assumption of dumping a bunch of stored water, you could also carry it into this lesson and say, I'm dumping all of the money that's in my account. However, what I wanted to point out is that that is actually only part of the equation. You also have to look at what's coming in. So if you have more coming in than what's going out, your balance or your storage is actually increasing. So here I want to show the animation of what actually does happen as we're opening up the spillway gates. So we can have a rising pool elevation in the reservoir that is going to require us to open up the spillway gates. However, as we begin to open up the spillway gates, and I'll go back to show that, as we open up the spillway gates, the pool is still rising. And as we continue to open the spillway gates, the pool then continues to rise. So yes, the release is increasing. However, the pool is still rising. Now that is just an animation. So what I wanted to do is to go in and show some actual data from a reservoir spillway operation. So what this is the pool elevation, and this goes with the y-axis that's on the left-hand side. And this is the release that occurred during that event, and that goes with the y-axis that's on the right-hand side, and that's flow in cubic feet per second. And there's two time periods of interest that I wanted to really focus on. One of them is going to be the initiation of the spillway operation. So this is when we decide to open up the spillways. And you can see when we make that decision to open up the spillway, the pool is still rising. And even after that decision is made, the pool then continues to rise. And it'll keep rising until we hit the peak. And it's not until we hit the peak pool elevation and the pool begins to recede that we have our release then exceeding inflow. You can see that we hit our peak release in this event very near the time when we had our peak pool elevation. We kept that peak release for a period of time to get the lake to fall, to make sure that it was going to continue to fall. And then you can see that as the lake continues to fall, we then step that release down because we do want to decrease the release, but we also want to make sure that we still have a falling pool elevation. So hopefully this helped you understand spillway releases in a little bit more detail. If you want more information about water resources topics, feel free to subscribe to the channel and you'll get notification when more of these videos come out. And thanks for watching this one.